And we are live. Folks, I'm really excited. We've got a guest for you today. The incomparable Fred Wellman will be joining us. He's thrown his hat in the ring. He's running to flip Missouri's 2nd Congressional District. So let's get right into it. Let's dig into it. Top of the morning to you, Fred. Hope your coffee's as good as mine, brother. Hell, I hope it's better. How are you doing today?
Good, brother. Good to see you. It's been way too long, man. Good to see you.
It's good to see you too, man.
I'm very bright today.
You look good, brother. You look good.
Thank you.
You look good. Hey, Fred, I want to be honest with you. You know me. I'm just straightforward, dude. I am. I just tell it I tell it the way it is, brother. I'm sitting there. I'm looking at your resume, brother, and I'm telling you, I don't see it. I just don't see it, man. I just don't. I mean, you look a little light. You graduated from some backwater college up in New York that I know most people never heard of.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah.
Can't read that. Where you?
Yeah, well, my entire family went to the University of Missouri, and I rebelled, man. I'm not going to follow her. I'm going to go to West Point. I'm going to try and be, a hippie kid. So went to West Point. First kid from my high school in like 20 years ago. So it was great, man. Can't beat the price.
So let's run through it. I want to introduce you to the people. Okay, we've got Fred. I'm gonna take a second to brag on my audience here. These folks, you want to get in good with these folks. These are professionals.
Okay.
It's a global audience. It is, but they're professionals. They're doctors. They're lawyers. They're people. These are smart people, Fred, and people of means. You want these people to support you, brother. So we're going to do a quick introduction, if you don't mind. I know you're a humble man. You're a humble man. You're a humble man. But I do want to run through the resume for you folks because Fred has a very impressive resume. I mean, first of all, West Point. Graduated from West Point. Then ended up in the Army as an Army aviator. I never heard anybody call it a Army pilot and aviator before, but okay. Flying the Kiowas, right?
Yep, I did. Yeah.
Did I get that right?
You did. That was the older one. I didn't have that ball on top. I just had my BDIs in mine. So OH-58 Charlies. Sure did. Back in the old days, flying. Unarmed and unafraid.
Deployed to Desert Storm, correct?
That's it right there. I did. I did Korea first, and then I got the 24th Infantry Division at Hunter Army Airfield. And we deployed to Desert Shield and Desert Storm as an air scout platoon leader for the big left hook, the big left hook into Iraq and around Kuwait. I was the scout for the Apache, one of the scouts for the Apache battalion. And
that was in the early days of it, correct? I mean, that was
it. This is 1991. This is Desert Storm when we were trying to knock Saddam out of Kuwait. So our Apaches, our job was to go and blow things up. And we actually fought the last battle of the war. So the day of the ceasefire, we got it.
And I heard you actually won a couple of awards for the cleanest helicopters in the fleet.
Oh yeah. It was a journey. It was a journey.
I'm just kidding, folks. That is not Fred's Kiowa. I promise you, it is not. Oh my God, man! No, but
it got nasty.
Yeah, and of course, then from there, went to Ranger School.
I did. I'm a late bloomer. I went as a captain when I was at Fort Knox. They said, "Hey, do you still want to go to Ranger School?" I'm like, "Sure." How hard can it be? It's really hard. I was, I mean, the story of my life, Paul, is me saying, "Well, how hard can it be?" And then it's like things are really fucking hard. And it was actually really hard. Yeah, it was rough.
I can imagine. I can just imagine, Fred. And I want to apologize for this. We've got people that support the show. We're going to be bringing their comment. Won't stop to interrupt or read their comments, but we'll be bringing their comments up back and forth on the show as they come up. Okay. But yeah, I'm just picturing this, Fred. You've got all these little rubber people in Ranger School, and then here comes the old man huffing it through. I mean,
so my favorite story. I gotta tell it, since you opened this can of worms, brother. This is on you. So I was a captain when I went, which is an old man in Ranger world. So I was like 27 years old, and I was the senior ranking guy in the class. But there's no rank in Ranger School, no rank. But somehow I ended up with every major order we had to write. But the funny story is we're in the mountains of Dahlonega, Georgia, right along the Appalachian Trail. That's where we do our mountain training. And it's raining one night, and a young officer was our platoon leader, and he got us into a draw. He got he got right into like a creek coming out. We were stuck. And the ranger instructors get mad. Everybody's getting mad. I'm landing because I've already done my 2 patrols. I'm done. I'm clear, right? Because once you do 2 patrols, you've passed that phase. So I'm chillaxing, man. I'm laying there. And all of a sudden they go, "Wellman, you're up." And I run up, and the ranger starts like, "We have to be on top of that hill for our mission in 15 minutes. You need to come with the plan." And I grabbed my platoon sergeant. I said, "Kick them in the ass and get them up the hill." And that's what we did. Everyone's falling asleep. So we literally are running around kicking dudes like, "Get up, go up, get up, go up." We're like, "What?" I said, "Get up. When you get to the top, stop." Like, okay. So that was like, and everybody just started running up the hill, which, and they start throwing grenades, regulators, and I'm running around. And I'm a little dude. Let's be honest. I'm not a big dude. And I'm talking now, but I was skinny then. And all of a sudden, I feel myself bodily lifted by my rucksack. And I turn around these 2 giant Ranger instructors, right? And they're looking at me. And they're like, "Ranger, what are you doing?" I said, "The mission is to get up the hill. We're going up the effing hill. And if you get out of my way, I'll get it done." And they look at each other and go, "Ranger's got a plan. Carry on." And that became like a personal motto. Like, well, Ranger's got a plan. I was like, people just want to be led sometimes. Like, you know what? The mission's get the hill. Let's get the hill. And honest to God, Paul, I got them to the top of the hill and they fired me. I was done. I was like, great. Mission accomplished. We got to the top of the hill. So that's sometimes I learned so many lessons with that, life lessons. Like, when everything's going to hell, sometimes people just want you to say, "You know what? Just go that direction, and we'll unscrew ourselves when we get there." Anyway, so there's a life lesson for Ranger School. As a young captain, I went to Ranger School.
Now, Fred, I don't want to bring down the mood, man, but I think it's important for people to understand that we have everybody has tragedies in their lives. They do.
Yeah.
And to be able to say, okay, look, this is going to be my leader. You're going to be our leader, Fred. Yeah. You're going to be our leader. And if you're going to be our leader, I need people to be able to relate to you and understand about this time, you suffered a tremendous tragedy. The love of your life that you met in college, your college sweetheart.
Yep.
Carrying your firstborn child. Well, I can't say I apologize, Fred.
Yeah.
Carrying your child has a car accident.
Yeah. We were Fort Campbell.
And then your life is blown up, literally.
Yeah. It was interesting because, we had met at West Point, at a classic West Point store. We met at a tailgate in 1985. I don't know what year, 85. And Jan was this cute little button-nosed girl, Irish girl from upstate New York, and just fell madly in love with her. And we dated through the rest of my West Point exposure. Of course, as classic goes, we broke up briefly. I was in flight school and she was still in college. And then we reunited it's like a funny story because we reunited right before Desert Shield. She came down and we fell madly in love again still, and literally came down, got engaged. And just as she arrives and we're settling down into our apartment, Desert Shield kicks off. And so we actually got married in the courthouse. We hustled down to the courthouse and got married before I deployed. Because, back in the day, for those who've served, back in the 90s, we didn't recognize like girlfriends, or there was no family support group. But if you weren't a wife, you got nothing. So I said, look, let's just get our butts married and then you'll be in the camp. And sure enough, that worked out really well. And so So yeah,
You're such a romantic, man. I have to tell you.
I
Yeah,
am.
let's just go get our butts married now.
It's my Italian brother. It's my Italian.
Get in the
No, it's great.
car.
We got married. No. It's worse than that. We met at her lunch hour from work, dude. It's really romantic. There's pictures of us. It's the funniest damn thing. And we told a reporter,
baby, I love you. Here's a ring and a Subway sandwich.
I think we got him at Sears. It was, whatever. And you got to do this military. You got to do what you got to. And I rushed off to war, and she supports me. It was wonderful. We get back, decided to try and have a baby. It took us a while to have babies, and of course, you love that. Everybody has to give you advice. That was fun. And she got pregnant finally in '93, early 1994. This is going great. And one day, it's a classic story. I went to a meeting at work. I remember it was weird because she actually walked me out to the car that day. She never did that, and she's hugely pregnant, 7.5 months pregnant. And that day she went to run errands for us in Nashville and came back, and she pulled out in traffic and got T-boned by a car she didn't see, and was killed instantly. And it did kind of flip my life upside down in a very real way. I was 29 years old, and all of a sudden I'm a widower. And it was
29 years old. You're just a breath of worldly experience. So processing something like this.
Yeah. So it really, and learn, and this is after I've lost two men. I lost 2 men in Desert Storm. I lost so it was a really bumpy road those early years. Again, it teaches you lessons. I'm not saying I've handled it perfectly, but I think it definitely gave me a very unique perspective in the world that a lot of my friends and neighbors may not have. But here I am. I'm out here, and we recovered. I was very blessed. The Army lost the struggle first. The Army in the end took very good care of me. And just one of those dumb luck things. My commander from Desert Storm happened to be the guy in charge of personnel movements at the time, and said, "Hey, you know what? Let's get you out of Fort Campbell and get you to Hawaii." So I got stationed in Hawaii. I met a lovely young woman named Crystal who got married very quickly, had 4 kids very quickly, and we were married for 24 years. And so you just kind of take your licks and you get back up. And really, it goes to my one tattoo, which says, I'm not done yet. And it was always, I think, in a lot of times I've taught a lot in my life. These lessons taught me that, you can quit or you can dust yourself back off and get back up there. I think that's what every American, I think that's our story of our country, right? It's like, all right, well, that wasn't great, but let's get back to work. So, but thank you.
Now, I know you said that really quickly, but folks, I'm telling you, you're paying attention. I know this audience doesn't miss anything. I know, but I just want to make sure that you did hear that. Karma loves this man. He met a wonderful woman. They have children together. They're very I'm telling you, I don't know, punching way above his weight class. He has been blessed in life. I keep doing it.
Really and Crystal, God bless, we got divorced as one does, and I met my beautiful fiance Heather, and I moved back to St. Louis 4 years ago for her. I've been really, look, I'm just a very lucky man. I'm very blessed. I've been very fortunate. People just say you have to make your own luck. I believe that's true, but by the same token, you've got to be open to it when it arrives. I was sometimes think people, they don't see what's happening in front of their lives, and they miss opportunities. And I've been very lucky to say, you know what, here's an opportunity. So when I met Heather 5 years ago, and she said, "Hey, you should move back to your hometown." I said, "I should." Sure, I'm 55 years old. Why start over again? Why not? Let's start over again. And so here I am, back in my hometown, and I get here, and my beautiful fiance says, "Well, you're home now. You got to help." So here I am, But no, it's been an interesting life. I went on after Jennifer passed away. I met Crystal, I had the kids, and we moved to Fort McPherson into Georgia, and I actually got out of the Army for a little while. I joined the reserves, and 9/11 hit, and I got.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Let's go back to 2000 for a second, Fred.
Okay.
You're out. You're in the reserves now.
I am.
I guess you're looking into civilian life. You got plans.
Yeah. Got a great job, project management consultant, man. Sexy.
Yeah. and then something happened.
I was run for mayor. I was run for mayor of Peachtree City, Georgia. Texas. I was running for mayor of Peachtree City, Georgia, a lovely town, very affluent community in outside of Atlanta, and I had
a little event happened.
Yeah, my wife was a flight attendant. I was a project management consultant. I was a reserve major, and I decided to run for mayor. And then 9/11 hits. I remember sitting there I dropped the kids off at daycare, came back, and I'm sitting there watching this unfold. And my then wife said to me, there's gonna be a war. I said, yeah, there's gonna be a war. And we knew it was. My last job was in Third Army, the headquarters for the Army in the Middle East. So I'd studied. We knew who it was. We knew it was we knew it was going to be here. I'll turn my volume up. Sorry about that. How's that better? We knew it was going to be tough. I knew it was bin Laden. We knew it was going to be Afghanistan. So I said, yeah, there's going to be a war. And to her credit, and my kids' credit, they said, you know what, you're a soldier, you want to serve. And so I did. I went in and I called my unit up. And they said, great, we're going to call you anyway. And I went back in the very next day and never took my uniform off till 2010. So I volunteered to go back in the regular Army because I just couldn't sit in that's my thing, Paul. It's like, you know, there's times you have to step up, and that was one of those times. It's like my country was calling. I was a soldier. I had unique skills they needed. They're short on Army aviators. I was a major in the Navy. There you go. The old there, my beautiful Black Hawk. They put me in black. It's kind of funny too, because I was an attack guy. So my job in the Army had been scouts and blowing stuff up. And I called my old commander up, who was at the 101st Airborne Division, and I said, hey, look, do you need any broken down majors? He said, yeah, I do. I've got 2 Apache battalions that need, operations officers, majors, and a Black Hawk battalion. I said, well, I'm not doing Black Hawks because that's not my jam. He goes, yeah, here's the thing though, Fred. He goes, the Apache transition that you need is 4 months long. And I don't have slots till like 2 months from now. I'm like, okay, so you won't get here till next year. I'm like, that sucks. He goes, yeah, but my Black Hawk transitions, I got dozens of those. They're 6 weeks. You'll be here. And by the way, something's going on. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I can tell you what's going on, Fred, but something's going on. I'm like, okay. So I hustled my ass down to Fort Rucker, Alabama, and I got myself a Black Hawk transition, which is a beautiful aircraft to fly. They're just a wonderful aircraft. And I found myself back at the 101st Airborne in charge of a Black Hawk battalion, the operations officer. And 3 months later, guess what? My happy ass is back in Iraq again.
So I've got to ask, I'm a civilian. I've never served. I don't know. I'm outside here. So I understand when you deployed with a little known unit, the little known division, what is it? The 100 and something.
101st Airborne Air Assault, Air Assault.
So what were you doing in those Black Hawks? Were you like a Uber Eats, flying them back and forth to the grocery store? I mean, what were you doing with the 101st Airborne in those Black Hawk helicopters?
Sadly, that's not inaccurate in some ways. No, it was really what was cool about my unit. I was the 6th 101st Aviation, so we have a ton of helicopters in the 101st Airborne. We have the most helicopters of any unit in the Army, and because we're air assault, that's our job. We do air assault. So there's an entire brigade, 3 battalions of Black Hawks that do that air assault. They pick up the infantry. And they go in, they drop them off, and all that kind of stuff. My unit was interesting. We were assigned to the Apaches, the attack brigade, the cavalry and the Apaches, and our job was everything else. So my unit had everything from the general's aircraft, the fancy General Petraeus's fancy command bird, to we had the Pathfinder platoon. If you guys remember from World War II, I don't know if you remember the pictures of World War II, the guys, the Mohawks going into, that was our Pathfinders. That was the 101st Airborne's Pathfinders. Those guys were in my command. Which they were very happy to have their infantry. They were really happy to have a ranger who spoke ranger. And then we also had like the downed pilot rescue. I was in charge of the task force that one of our aircraft got shot down or crashed. We were the ones that went across enemy lines and picked them up. I mean, it was just a hodgepodge of cool missions. So I really enjoyed that. I love things that are a little bit different and off the beaten path. And that unit, the 6th 101st, was just an exceptional unit. We were very well led. My battalion commander, Chuck, was a great guy. And we really just, we went in there supporting the Apaches. We hop skipped our way up to Baghdad, and then we jumped all the way to Mosul. Ended up taking over Q West Air Base. It was just a fascinating experience. And like many of us, the 101st, once we arrived where we were when the shooting stopped, well, briefly, I did civil affairs. I ended up taking care of our local civilians. So in addition to having my Black Hawk job, I was also out there, eating sheep and building schools and building clinics and everything else, man. It was quite a ride, man. It was a ride. I liked it. I liked the food so much, kept going back. So,
and that's during Iraqi freedom, right?
Yeah, that was Iraqi freedom, 2003.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after serving there, after another tour in Iraq, you get out. And I guess it's time for a break, right? I mean, just chill out, go to the beach, drink some margaritas, chill. No. You went to another little backwater college that most people have never heard of. I mean, help me out here. How do you pronounce this?
The Harvard Kennedy School of Government, actually Harvard Kennedy School. Yeah, I went to. That was a general portrait. It was actually after my second tour. So after that first tour, I ended up on TV quite a bit because I was running for mayor. and when I got mobilized. So the media kind of followed me. And so I got I did so much press during that first tour. I made an anchor on CNN cry one day. And General Petraeus said, you're good at that. You should be a spokesman. So I ended up being the Army spokesman. And so I came back and
hold on, don't go too fast. Now you got your master's degree at the Harvard Kennedy School, correct?
I did. Yeah, I got a master's.
All right. Now you went in to work for the Pentagon.
No. So after that, I went to the Pentagon, and then of course, being the Army, they sent me back to Iraq for my third tour. I just couldn't third tour of Iraq. I'm like, I don't know, but I thought I was going to be in the Pentagon. But it's just, my family. I think it's better to say my family.
Are you responsible for that Hegseth makeup room? Is that what this is all about? I mean,
brother, he does not like me. My man Pete does not like me. I tell you, we've never gotten along. We've been battling for years. But yeah, so I came back to the Pentagon. I retired out of the Pentagon. I was in the Army Public Affairs. Had a fascinating job. I actually ran Army social media. It was kind of fun. And then I retired out of that job in 2010. And I finally left the Army. It took me so long. I tried to quit for so long. It took 2 tries to quit. But the second time took, and I actually stayed out this time.
So just to be clear, Iraq, Pentagon, Iraq again.
Yeah.
And when you were in Iraq, you were the third tour.
It was Iraq as an aviator, back to 101st Airborne, back to Iraq, public affairs school, back to Iraq as a spokesman, Harvard, back to Iraq, and then back to the Pentagon and retired after my third tour in Iraq because I literally, it's funny. I did get back, and my wife thought, I said, hey, before I left that third tour, because look, I was very engaged in Iraq. I had friends, I had Iraqi partners I'd worked with for many years. I lost a lot of them. My interpreter was murdered. The sheikh that I built those clinics for was murdered in the clinic I built for him. He was a doctor. And I was one of those guys who was hovering over the casualty rosters, hovering over the news every night, all those years. So look, I'm not going to act like I didn't. I wanted to go serve. I wanted to be back where the men and women were fighting for our country. I was one of those guys who wasn't comfortable home. I love my kids. I love my family. I loved being home, but in the end, I was very, very focused on fighting. That's why I went back in the Army. So, and that those last couple tours meant, training the Iraqi security forces and how to tell their story effectively and communicate with the American people. But, I think at the end there, and that's not even talk about the PTSD part, but, I think at the end there, my ex-wife was like, look, when you get back this time, you gotta be done with Iraq. So I came back in 2009. I said, that's enough. I dropped my retirement paperwork and I left the Army after I got out.
So just to be clear, that's when you went to the beach and sipped margaritas. You just chilled out and relaxed.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You actually came back and you went to work for veterans.
I did.
That's when you started Scout Comms, right?
I did. Yeah. Thanks. I really appreciate it. I was real proud of that work. We started a little firm. We started in my basement that I saw that with all the big public relations and the vet advocacy firms, there wasn't at the time anyone really just focused professionally on veterans outside the nonprofit world. So I had the idea that I could use my experience as a communicator, as a leader, to help companies and nonprofits and organizations supporting our veterans advocate better, reach more people, have a bigger impact. And I was very fortunate. One of my very first clients, literally a month after I started the firm in my basement, was the Home Depot. The Home Depot Foundation decided to launch a campaign for veterans housing. They started off with $30 million, which at the time was a staggering number to be dedicated to veterans causes. And they needed somebody to help them, from everything from telling that story to reaching veterans. They could help them to effectively working with partners that were good at it, because that's the thing. There's a lot of nonprofits, some are better than others. And so I was very blessed. I ended up having the Home Depot as a client up until, like 2022, frankly. They became such good partners. They burned through 30 million, and there's going to be 30 million in 3 years. It was 30 million in a year and a half. I'm like, well, I guess I'm done. Like, no, we're going to do more. Then it was 50 million. That was, it was incredible. And they are now up to over $500 million that they have invested in veterans housing and emergency response and helping communities. And so that's the Home Depot Foundation. So I was and that's kind of what we did. We would help those good nonprofits, help organizations pass laws. I mean, when the Warrior Project, Student Friends of America, the Chamber of Commerce, when they did the Hiring Heroes program. So it was a great gig. It was a great gig. I did it for almost a decade.
And people don't realize just how important that is. I mean, you've got a wealth of resources out here and people that are of goodwill that want to help out our veterans, that want to do things. And then over here, you have veteran services organizations that are really, I mean, just grinding where the rubber meets the road, and getting these two to dance together. I mean, they're unaware of each other a lot. They don't know what each other are doing. Getting these two to dance and that is God's work, my friend. I mean,
I want to jump in. I got to jump in, Paul, because there's one of our fans here said that Home Depot donates to Donald Trump. That is actually not true, and it's very frustrating when I see that. The Home Depot has 3 founders: Arthur Blank, and Bernie Marcus, and one other. Bernie Marcus, long after he left the Home Depot, was a supporter of Donald Trump. Bernie Marcus actually has passed away. But if you want to do that, Arthur Blank is a big supporter of democracy. He has the Blank Foundation actually has a huge pillar that supports a pro-democracy. So I do defend my former client when people say, "Oh, the Home Depot gives to Trump." That is the Home Depot Foundation has given more money to veterans causes than any corporation in the United States, bar none. And I'll get a little, my dander gets up a little bit when people attack those good people that I worked with. You know, the corporations, look, we can, and my campaign is very much for the average working person.
What we do here,
they are helping, you know, they're working hard, man. They're good people.
That's what we do here.
Bernie Marcus is Bernie Marcus, and God bless him. I met him, and I'll tell you what, you know, and look, I also want to, you know, the thing is, that was 2010. Okay, 2011, 2012. There was no freaking Trump. Okay, I didn't know what their politics were. I didn't know what Arthur Blank's politics were. You know, this thing where we've now had to color everything we do in a political limelight is gotten us. It's kind of where we are, right, brother? It's like, look, if good people want to help my fellow veterans, money doesn't have a color. Okay, it's green. And my fellow brothers and sisters who fought, and sons and daughters. I gotta tell you, no, I know you're good, Lisa. I appreciate you. It is important that we support them. And if it's going to be a red dollar or a blue dollar, fuck, I don't know, you know, but I do desperately want help.
I know, but it is important though, because this is what we do here. Yeah. We take stuff that's misinformation or, you know, where people don't have good information and we fix it. This is what we do here. We are a platform, a community that puts information out there. And what you said is absolutely true. Bernie Marcus was an asshole, but he was just one of the founders.
Of 3.
He's dead. And Home Depot itself was not involved in anything that Bernie Marcus did. He did that. I mean, it was long after he left the company. So yeah, you know, you've got Home Depot out there they're really working hard.
Especially in those early days, man. Paul, I tell you, man, those early days, 2010, my God, when I started Scout Comps, we were losing about 30,000 veterans a month. The World War II veterans passing away. World War II veterans were passing away. Korea veterans were passing away. At the same time, man, people forget the unemployment crisis we had for veterans lasted long after the 2008 recession. I remember at one point when I took over the company, we had estimates that global war and terror unemployment, veterans unemployment, was as high as 12 to 16% at one point, which is a astonishing number for young men and women who just served their country, who couldn't find jobs. So you saw the Obama administration step up heroically with joining forces. You saw companies like Home Depot. You saw companies like USAA. You saw the American Chamber of Commerce. And we can argue with the Chamber of Commerce, but Chamber of Commerce started hiring our heroes. And they've hired millions of veterans. You know, so in the end, the entire country came together in ways that I never saw to make sure that and what happened to this day, veteran unemployment is generally hovering about a decimal point below the national average. And so that's because a lot of people put their hat in the ring to try and help. I'm proud that I had a small part of that up until we had that whole pandemic. But you know, I mean, I don't mean to be dander, but I mean, I just believe that, you know, if people are going to put in their work and do the work, we should give them credit for it. And I think a lot of the reason, circling back to why I'm here, I'm running for Congress. I'm going to run for Congress, right? And one of the reasons I'm running for Congress is that we've got to a point where we are so busy fighting amongst ourselves, fighting about Bad Bunny and other things. And the guys are going to fly. I mean, I was actually talking about this. I am on Midas Touch. Thank you. The thing about this is the guys who are going to be going to the Super Bowl to pay $6,500 per ticket. The median price of a Super Bowl ticket was $6,500 last year. They're going to be going on their private jets they're getting a tax break for. And they think it's freaking hilarious that all of us are arguing about Bad Bunny being American or not, or whether Ken Langone or Bernie Marcus was a good person or not. They think it's hilarious because they're dead. And here we are fighting amongst ourselves when the truth is there's a very big moment right now in our country where a lot of people are struggling. In my district where I live, 21,500 people are going to lose their health care in the next 6 months because of the Medicare cuts. You know, you see things like that and I go, guys, we must do, you know, we are falling right into the trap that we fight ourselves about stuff like, is this corporation good or bad? Or is this, in the end, you know, a lot of rich people are getting very rich while us people are spending all of our time fighting each other over things that are fucking stupid, let's be honest. Anyway, that's my pitch.
Well, no, look, Fred, this is something, when they watch this on replay, a commercial will pop up and 8 times out of 10, it'll be a Trump commercial.
Right.
Because I don't control Google. Who puts the ad. Yeah. Right. Google does that. And Trump specifically, they buy ads on my show on purpose. So technically, I'm paid by Trump.
Right? I know. I get that all the time. All the people comment on my show. So my show is Friday night on Midas Touch, and people like kind of like, I can't believe you got these Trump ads. Like, bro, I don't know what you're talking about. That's YouTube. That does
so I love to tell people that is
they are targeting us on purpose. You know, they do that.
Yeah, they are targeting us, and I love to make this point. Good. Take that money that you could spend motivating your people. Take that money that you could, because you're reaching nobody in my audience. Man.
Right, exactly.
Nobody. You are wasting your money. Put as much of that money as you can in my pocket because you can listen to my message. I'm kicking Trump in the balls daily. You know what I mean? But you want to pay me to do that? Cool. You and Google work that shit out. But I get that email all the time. I cannot believe that you run Trump ads. It's like, I don't run Trump ads. I don't. But where I'm going with this, Fred, is it's important to know the details.
I get ads for like weird knockoff shoes. My show's not that popular, I guess. But no, I mean, look, we're such a unique moment. You know, in my bio, you know, we could talk about. Obviously, I got involved in politics after the pandemic. I got sucked into the Lincoln Project. I had a good my friend. I've known Steve.
Don't get ahead of us now. We're still working on it. We're still working. Don't get ahead, man.
I'll let you do your host thing. I'm doing it again.
Yeah.
This is the danger. This is the danger. You interview other podcasters because we're like, look, I'm in charge.
Well, this is why I'm doing this, Fred. This is why I'm doing this because here I am running through the press this morning, and they're telling me a podcaster is running against Ann Wagner.
Isn't that amazing?
And I'm like, oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I happen to know a little bit about this man's resume, and I would not classify. Fred, I get it. You've got a show. You do it. But if I had to say Fred Wellman is it wouldn't be podcaster at the end of it. It just wouldn't. You know what I mean?
Well, you know,
so that's why we're doing this, bud.
I'm a middle-aged white guy, so I had to have a podcast. It's mandatory. They issue you one when you hit 55. Anyway, carry on, sir. Carry on.
Linda, we're going to get to that. That is one of the questions that Fred and I are going to talk about here in just a second. I want to finish running through your resume here, though. But around 2020, something else happened. You end up back in New York.
Yeah.
Run with it, brother.
Yeah. So I was real fortunate. I was sitting at home. My company, after the pandemic hits, and we decided to go ahead and, I sent everybody home. And, things slowed down. A lot of my clients were nonprofits. So, they were struggling, so it's fine. And a friend of mine called. She said she's a nurse. And she's on her way. She's a widow of a Navy SEAL, and she's on her way to New York City to run a COVID field hospital under New York Presbyterian Hospital, and it's gonna be all special operations medical veterans, and they're heading to New York. And she's like, great. She goes, but we forgot to recruit any like administrative people. I said, oh, what are you looking for? She goes, well, I need somebody who can like organize staff, HR, staffing, logistics, like, oh, so you need a battalion executive officer, which is one of my jobs. and she said, yeah. I said, well, let me think about it. And I got off the phone. I called my now fiance, Heather. I said, hey, this is what they're looking for. And God bless Heather. She's like, she says, Bubs, that's you. I'm like, oh, it is. And so I called my friend back. I said, hey, you think you guys want me? She's like, shit, yeah. And they called the hospital. The hospital called me. I talked to the COO of the hospital. I said, man, if you can come, we'll take you. So I literally hopped in my car and drove straight to New York City. The highway was I-95 was empty. And I'm driving up there, and again, another classic. How hard can it be? Running a hospital. I mean, have I done that? No.
Oh yeah, middle of a pandemic. I mean, field hospital. How hard could it be to put together a field hospital in the middle of a pandemic?
Flat. And it's hard, actually, turns out. But I arrive, and my initial job was going to be just like a project manager. Remember, I had a job as a project manager back in the day, and I arrive, and it's just chaos. They were literally building I mean, God bless New York Presbyterian Hospital. What an incredible. So what the situation is that they had a situation where they had all the hospitals were full. They had 7 hospitals. There were 8. They're full. I mean, overflowing. You guys remember those early days? People were in the hallways, in the break rooms, the office space. They said, "Look, we're going to open a field hospital at Columbia University's Baker Fieldhouse. Is that one of those positive pressure domes?" And if you know those inflatable domes for soccer practice. And so they said, yeah, let's do that. And so they built an oxygen farm for us and everything. So I arrived, and they're like, and I just kind of fell into charge. And by the end of the day, I was the chief of staff of a hospital, which is weird. And I ended up running the thing, and it was really exciting. We brought men and women from all over the country. We brought nursing students, we brought doctors, and we put them to work. We put them in bubble suits inside, taking care of like over 100 patients who came to us, and everybody left. We were sort of I wouldn't say a step down unit, but we kind of were. People were on the back.
Well, Fred, I realize you're humble about this shit. I get it. I understand. You are a humble guy. You really are. It's not an act. It's who you are. Second tour in Iraq, you were an XO, man. I mean, you have leadership experience. Yeah. So, I mean, I get it. It was hard. I understand that. But you were not new to, hey, get your ass over here. We need to get this done. No. And, this was not
I'm a take charge kind of guy. I've been accused of being a take charge kind of guy. It was like the Rangers got a plan. And sometimes that plan is, look, in chaos, and it's like this moment we're in right now. It is, people are just looking for something to say, look, where are we going? You know what I mean? And I may not be perfect. I may not know the whole plan, but I know like we need to get up the hill. And that was another case. It's like, well, I knew we need to have a hospital built by Tuesday. Literally, this is Friday. I knew that they wanted us to admit patients by a Tuesday. Well, we have a mission. Okay, so you do your job, you do your job, you do your job. And one of my favorite stories is we finally started getting patients, just a few. And a lot of my staff weren't in the payroll yet, right? And I'm like, they're working on patients for this wonderful hospital. And we had our morning meeting. I said to my colleague, the CEO, I said, hey, I'm a little worried some of my folks aren't in the payroll system yet. He goes, well, don't worry about it. They'll get paid. I'm like, well, I said, do you have a general counsel? I said, well, I know my general counsel, my lawyer, if he knew that I had people working on patients for your hospital and they weren't actually employees, and he kind of went, shit, shit, it kind of clicked like, wait a minute, we have people working on our patients who don't actually work for us. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, anyway, so 3 hours later, all of my people were on the staff, and you just gotta, sometimes you gotta put the dots together. And so that's kind of my thing, man. It's like, I'm a common sense
all I can imagine is Fred out there on Fifth Avenue grabbing people by the collar. You work at a fucking hospital now. Come on, let's go.
It's not inaccurate. I mean, well,
not that. But yeah,
it was. And these guys. I mean, we had like Navy SEALs. I mean, these were hardcore people. We had Navy SEALs. We had Army Green Berets. We had Air Force PJs. These were no shit special ops guys. And my happy ass, like, chonky middle-aged guy. and I was a Ranger, but I wasn't the Ranger battalions. I was just trying to take charge. And the funny thing about it, once everybody figured out, all right, he's the boss. We just fell into this military chain of command and shit. And I think that's what I loved about the New York Presbyterian folks was they just said, look, you run your shit because you guys know what you're doing. And to their credit, they just let us run our own hospital. And it was tough. I mean, in those early days, it was crazy, man. The stories I tell sometimes, I don't tell a lot of stories about Larkin. And one of the things, I'll tell you, I do want to tell the story of the name, though. So the name, it was Ryan F. Larkin Field Hospital. And it's so interesting, the connection I have. So Ryan Larkin was a Navy SEAL who took his own life after returning from combat. He had a traumatic brain injury, he had PTSD. He took his own life. His dad was a guy named Frank Larkin. And Frank was a Navy SEAL, a CIA operative, and the sergeant at arms of the Senate of the United States. This guy, Frank Larkin is a living, breathing badass in every way. And a year before, 2 years before, and I was struggling at the really bottom of my PTSD journey. I'd been in therapy. I was really hitting it hard. I was really struggling. And my client, Mark Graham, who runs a thing called Vets for Warriors, he's a retired 2-star general. He had one son get killed in combat and one son take his life, soldiers. So they did a panel at an event I was at on suicide, military veteran suicide. And I'm not lying, Paul. It changed my life. I was sitting there in that audience, listening to these two incredibly brave men, like strong men, 2-star general and a former SEAL, who were very, very deeply broken by the loss of their sons to suicide. And I had been nurturing that thought for many years at that point. And I said, oh shit, you know, it was really that oh shit moment, you know, and people talk about the oh shit moment. And my oh shit moment was, you know, I got daughters, I got 2 daughters, I got 2 boys, I got a family, I got people that rely on me. I mean, I got to take that off the table. And I really went hard in my treatment. That's when I got my treatment. So flash forward 2-3 years later, here I am running Ryan F. Larkin Field Hospital in New York. And Frank came to visit us. It was and we had I pulled him aside, told my story, and 2 old crusty veterans cried in a corner over the loss of his amazing son. So it was just such a, it was such a privilege to be able to go to New York when our country was in crisis and take over a hospital. And I wasn't in charge. There was a doctor, Missy Givens was our boss. But I don't say that lightly. It was very much a privilege to do that and have the, you know, that's why I talk about I'm lucky. It's like, I've been very fortunate when people call. I mean, look, I got that call from somebody else. It fell in my lap, and I had the opportunity to step up and do something. And then I think that's my story in a lot of ways, is when these moments occur, you know, you kind of calculate the risk and you go, and that's what I did. So anyway, long story. I apologize.
No, it's all right. It's all right. This is what we're here for, man, because if people are going to vote for you, they need to know what the hell they're voting for. They do. Yeah. They do. Yeah. So let's wrap this up. The next thing that happens is you end up with a bunch of miscreants involved with the Lincoln Project. You know, Rick Wilson and I occasionally DM each other, but he has no idea he's talking to me. He has no idea.
Rick is nothing but trouble. If he's watching, he's nothing but trouble. Rick Wilson, you've been a pain in my ass for 5 years. No, it was a funny story. Like I said, my company, I came back. I was one of those lucky ones to get a PPP loan. I gave all that to the salary to my employees, but we just never saw the business come back, and we just ran out of luck. So I decided to close it. And Steve Schmidt, I'd met Steve Schmidt in Iraq, and he was working for Vice President Cheney. And we'd stayed close. We actually did some business together when I was running my company. He actually worked at GE, and he had actually called me because we made a little press and I did the hospital thing. And he called me one night. We had enough, just kind of raised my morale. God, Senator Dole called me to raise my morale because it was, you know, long days. Anyway, so I said, look, man, I think Scoutcoms is in trouble. He said, well, call me. I said, okay. So I called when I got back. I said, look, I'm going to have to close it down. I'm sorry. You know, I'd love to keep it going, but I can't. He said, well, look, you're going to come work for us. I said, Lincoln Project? He goes, yeah. I said, dude, I don't do politics. He goes, oh, you work for 3- and 4-star generals. You do politics.
Yeah, no shit, dude. I was going to say, man, that's bullshit, because the moment that star hits the shoulder, it's all politics.
There's that. Yeah. So, I didn't have an argument, brother. I was like, well, that's fair. I said, what do you want me to do? He goes, well, veterans, veterans and military families. Because one of the pillars of the Lincoln Project was, the goal was to convince people who had previously voted for Trump not to vote for him a second time. That was the mission. And we actually said 3 to 4% is what we were looking for. And so he said, look, that's very kind. Thank you. Very kind. So my mission was to convince my fellow veterans, service members, and their families that Donald Trump should not be elected commander-in-chief a second time. That was my mission. Simple, period. That was it. And so to do that, I organized Facebook groups. I organized ads. I did an ad with Sully Sullenberger, which is amazing. What a hero. I mean, he called me. I reached out to him and he called me, and I'm like, I don't know if you ever get this, Paul, when you talk to guests, but I was like, hi, it's Sully. I love Sully. I'm an old pilot. So Sully Sullenberger did an ad with me and Vote Vets. I did an ad with the Vindmans. My dear friend Rachel and Alex Vindman did an ad for me about being attacked by the most powerful man in the world. I did an ad I had the privilege to do an ad with Mark Hamill about absentee voting. So really a unique, exciting experience being in the middle of that. We all moved out to to a Park City for about a month to kind of bring it home, and it was an intense period in the way, and there were some long days, and then of course the vote was in question for a while, and we won, and so yeah, I was real proud of the work I did there. And then the funny thing is, then they asked me to be the executive director, and then everything. Chaos broke out as one does, and of course, if you remember, we had some crisis. I won't go into deeply, but there was some crisis, and the board came to me and said, "Hey, will you help us lead this challenge?" And again, I've never shrunk from a challenge, so I led the investigations into some of the improprieties that occurred with one of the founders, some of the monetary concerns people had. We actually issued an annual report for the first time for a PAC. Nobody's ever done that before, and then when the crisis, I hired a very, 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 very expensive law firm, very expensive law firm, and they investigated all the things. And when that investigation was over, I left. So I was over there when I left. I was at, I'm going to ask you questions. I was with the 6th and 101st Aviation on the ramp with the Blackhawks when we took over Key West. I was one of the founding fathers of Key West. But yeah, it was a hell of an experience. I was there for really a year. It's funny how many people don't realize I was only there a year. They think I'm still there. And I wasn't a Republican at the time. I was a Democrat, but most of us staffers were Democrats. I get that a lot too. People think I'm a former, oh, he's a Republican. No, I'm not. I'm not a Republican. But it was really a unique experience. I can't answer for what the founders, the challenges they had amongst themselves, but I did my job. My job was to convince Americans that Donald Trump should be commander in chief. And that's what I did.
And y'all did a good job. You were in there primarily around the 2000 election. Y'all did a great job. You really did. And by the way, Rick Wilson is one of the few Republicans I would actually like to have on the show. I mean, to be honest with you, I don't do Republicans. I'm a hyper-partisan Democrat. But Rick Wilson is one of the Republicans I would sit down and talk to. I would. If it ever comes up, mention, he's welcome. He is welcome. But good people. But I want to get your opponent off the table, right? You're going to end up running against Ann Wagner.
I am.
And she's got bad breath. She dances poorly. But she's a representative in Missouri's 2nd District.
Yeah.
She's a representative of one of the largest cities in the country. She is. I mean, Missouri's not a small place. It's not. Yeah. It's not a little backwater, but she is not any type of leadership at all in Congress. She is not. She is servile. She is one of those people that the party says, go out and say this, and she takes the party line and puts it up on her website. She doesn't represent the people of her district at all. And we'll get more into your district here in just a second because of the redistricting. But I just want to get Ann Wagner off the table. She's the chair of the subcommittee on capital markets. Now, folks, the dollar is crashing. We're having all kinds of problems with our bond market because of we've got inflation. They're trying to figure out what to do with our interest rates, which is causing turmoil in our bond markets. You would think that you would have heard something from Ann Wagner, but you haven't. No. You haven't. This is the person that's supposed to be leadership on this issue. You've heard jack shit out of her. What she does want to talk about is OnlyFans. Yeah. Yeah. She wants to do an investigation of OnlyFans.
Yeah. Yeah.
In the middle of all this bond turmoil and all of this, I'm sorry, Fred. I mean, I realize you are running for office. You have to pull your punches and be political about what you say. She is fucking political. Useless.
Well, that's the base of my can't. Look, I'll tell you what happened. So I'm sitting there. This is one. Look, I just look. I've got a past. Okay, amongst those things you just heard, I went bankrupt. Okay, I lost everything on 9/11 when I got mobilized. I lost it again when I lost my company during the pandemic. I've had a very bumpy life. I have all the things that should disqualify you for office. So I've always said no. But here's what's happening. I'm sitting there here. I've got 4 kids who are adults, and 2 more who are teenagers, thanks to my beautiful fiance. But I'm sitting there watching. It was the weekend the Senate was debating the big billionaire bill. And if you remember this, you guys, they're debating this bill. And if you remember, the House cut a bunch of people, but then it went to the Senate. The Senate wanted to cut even more. The Senate, they did not cut enough health care for Americans in the House. They were mad. They wanted more. And so here you've got the split screen of the United States Senate, Republican Senate, Republicans in the Senate arguing how many Americans they're going to screw by taking away their health care benefits and their SNAP benefits and all. But the split screen, if you guys remember, was Jeff Bezos's wedding. If you remember that, $56 million wedding in Venice, where he and his celebrity billionaire friends all partied, while back home they were arguing the largest transfer of wealth from the lowest 20% to the highest 10% in American history. And I just got so angry. My fiance says it. She was like, you woke up and I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing that we've got a representative, Ann Wagner, who refuses to even meet with her constituents, hasn't had a town hall in 13 years, has tripled her net worth while in Congress, sits in the banking committee, has been called the banker's best friend in Congress. And average Missourians, where I live, we now find out that 21,500 people in Missouri, too, are going to lose their health care. That's a city. That's one of our cities. That's bigger than Baldwin, the city she used to live in. That is more people than a couple of our cities that she represents. Imagine an entire city losing their health care because these people want to have tax breaks for private effing jets. And to see that juxtaposition of how out of touch our representatives are, I had to run. And that's what comes down to. The goddamn job has the title representative. And if you can't represent the people of Missouri too, I'd say it all the time, man. It's bad enough that the national media, the national parties, and everybody else treats Missouri like flyover country. I grew up here. I came back here happily. I love this state. But it's worse that our own congressional Republican member of Congress treats her district like flyover country, a place to be visited, right? A place to do a photo op, but not to actually represent her values. She has passed more bills for the banks than Missourians. No, okay. I didn't hire you to work for the banks. I hired you to work for me. Meanwhile, we have 5 rivers that go through my district. If we get 1,000-year rain, people are going to die, right? We have healthcare. The number one employer in this district is healthcare. Not only people losing their health there, they're going to lose their jobs. My God, the hospital that I volunteered at in high school is going to close. Community hospital I worked in. I mean, this is what we're facing. And we're right. What do I hear from Representative Wagner? Crickets, freaking crickets. And the whole way she works.
Because she's a sycophant, man. She just does what Trump says. And she does. Yeah. That's all she does in her job. I've told people, Republicans and Democrats in Congress, these are not the same animal. They have very different jobs, very different jobs. You know, the Republicans sit in their offices. They wait for the checks from the special interest groups. They don't sit there and you know, Fred's going to be out there pressing flesh saying, you know, the old Al Franken joke, hi, I'm Al Franken, write me a check. I mean, you're going to be out there. You're going to be out there meeting people, trying to get people to support you. You're going to be accountable to these people. Yeah. She's sitting there in her office waiting for her special interest checks to show up that come with a folder that says, say this. Oh, this is your new bill. Oh, this. I cannot stress enough that these are not the same. This both sidism crap that I hear just enrages me. I can see me turning red, man. It just enrages me.
Go.
It does, you know.
Well, no, I agree.
And she is one of the worst. She is. You know why? Nobody knows her name for a reason because she doesn't do shit, and she should.
I talked to forgive my cough. I talked to I had on the show this week Jason Crow, and Jason of course is a great Army Ranger veteran, Afghanistan Iraq veteran. He was on the show this week, and that was the thing is we talked about. It was so funny. We both said the same thing at the same time, which is the worst. I get Nancy Mace, I get the Marjorie Taylor Greenes, I get Tim Burchett's, they're the acolytes they're in. But what's really troubling to me is the Republican compliant, the silent ones, the ones who don't. You can support me at wellman4mo.com. The silent ones who are simply going on. And their mission in life is to fly under the radar, put an R next to their name on the ballot, and assure themselves that the nice Republican people in their district will just always come vote for them because they're so used to our tribalism and our divide that we won't vote against her. And so we just haven't had anybody who can reach out to everybody, like you said, get out, have conversations, meet people, have a national level campaign that can get our message in front of everybody in the district. Listen to people. Listen. Just get out and listen. And it's just, that's my frustration. It's these people who are complicit and silent that are just as dangerous as the most biggest acolytes, I think.
Look, I want to throw a couple of issues at you. This is the first one. This is happening, just happened in Missouri. We're talking about the redistricting. Mike Kehoe has actually now signed it into law.
Yeah.
They're trying to get rid of the district in the blue district in Kansas City. They split it up.
Yep.
Now, when they redistricted here in Texas, they used old numbers that didn't represent the political shift that has happened now. Democrats are cleaning house, man. Every special election, we are overperforming, and they did not have that into the mix. You've got a really, really fantastic opportunity here. This was the proposed map that's now been signed into law compared to the map now. They wanted to get rid of the 5th district here, so they carved it up into this rural thing here, thinking that was going to help them. The second also, which was, you're talking about Western St. Louis proper, is now a very rural district as well.
Yep.
They took a lot of St. Louis out of it. You're in Southwest St. Louis, all the way out into farm country.
They kept that
just like what happened here in Texas. They thought that was going to help them. Yeah, it didn't. We have so many districts. We have 5 more districts in play now because they used old numbers that they thought they could be comfortable with, and it turned out it's just bullshit. You're in the exact same situation, my friend. You have an incredible opportunity here because corn farmers. My family's from Iowa. I drive through Missouri all the time, man. I do, and I'm telling you, you have no idea that if you're not in one of the major cities, just how rural Missouri is, man.
Very. Yep.
And these farmers are pissed.
They are. And they're angry because and it's not all far. It's an interesting district. So our district really is actually not any of the city of St. Louis. So I take the 70% of St. Louis County, which is suburban, and then out to a rural portion. And our rural portion really is a lot that is actually mining, believe it or not. A lot of mining, a lot of recreation. We even have wine country here. And then now they've added a lot more. That new district adds a lot more red. It's red land, not necessarily red, people. So the actual numbers, when you shake it out, like looking how Lucas Kuntz did first. And then Luke, of course, if you remember, Lucas Kuntz was a Marine veteran. He ran for Senate here against Josh Hawley and then Eric Schmidt before that. Lucas barely lost this district. So they're trying to save her yet again. And they didn't do a lot, though. They did cut, this is interesting, they cut a big part of St. Charles County out, which is where a lot of our friends from the MAGA movement live. The last 2 members of the Missouri Senate Freedom Caucus live in St. Charles County, and they cut that out for some reason. And so I think in a lot of ways, please don't say St. Louis is a show. I don't really like that. That's rude. They have really decided to give her more land. And I tell you what, I'm more than happy to go to those places and introduce myself as an Army combat veteran, a kid who's got some scars, a kid who has come back to his home state and is working hard to help for the first time, compared to her, who was the ambassador to Luxembourg, is now worth an estimated $26 million in the bank, sits in the banking committee. The banks, farmers love the banks, right? That's a famous thing. Farmers and banks are best friends. So, and so I'm more than happy to go out and have that conversation. But here's the thing. She won't have that conversation. It's going to be up to me. So I will go out to those places and I will talk to anyone because, look, man, I've been in places. I've sat across from people who probably wanted to kill me. And it is what it is. And so I will go out and talk because you know what? Again, the job is the name, representative. And if people can't see the representative and understand, shake them down and disagree. And I want to tell you a story. This is a fascinating story. A friend of mine represents my hometown. And he told me a story about knocking a door. He got an 80-year-old man at the door. And this gentleman says, he says, what's going on in your mind, sir? He goes, well, I don't like these boys being in girls' bathrooms. He goes, okay, well, you're worried about safety. Yeah. He goes, all right, what else? He goes, well, I don't like these boys playing girls' sports. He's like, okay, you worry about fairness, But here's where it gets interesting, brother. He says, here's the thing, though. My wife's medicine is so expensive that we can only afford it 1 week a month. And so she spends 3 weeks a month basically on the couch. Now, out of those 3 things, what do you think is more important to that gentleman? What's really keeping him up at night? It's the third thing. And you have to think about the factor that goes in. And it's funny. I know some folks in the medical industry, and of course I have therapists, and they'll tell you, people in the medical industry will tell you the most important part of a physical or therapy session is the last 5 minutes. That's when the really important stuff comes out. And think about the shame factor that goes into an 80-year-old man, a boomer, possibly greatest generation guy, admitting to a politician from a different party that he can't afford to take care of his wife. And that's the real stuff right there. I call it now getting to the third answer. If we got to work our way through to the third answer, because I tell you right now, an 80-year-old man is not worried about transgender kids. I'm sorry. There's been 7 in the history of the NCAA that they talk about it because that's what they're being told to talk about. We're being told to argue about that. We're being told to argue about Bad Bunny. But that man's really ashamed and scared because his poor wife can't get off the damn couch because the medicine's too goddamn expensive. At the same time that my opponent, Ann Wagner of Missouri 2, is cutting healthcare, proudly saying that they're saving it by keeping the illegal aliens off it. It's never had illegal aliens taking our Medicaid from us, okay? It's a lie. And they're pitting us against each other when the truth is there's good people like that man from my hometown who can't afford to give his wife the medicine she needs. That's the issues. And so we have those conversations. And the other thing I always hear, and it's funny, and your dad, like it's fascinating to me how unsolicited every goddamn person I talk to says, it looks like you and me, says, I'm worried about my kids, Fred. I'm worried about the future of my kids. My kids can't afford to live in my hometown. It's too expensive. I have that situation with my kids. My youngest son was a full-time bartender in one of the best restaurants in Richmond, Virginia, 12 hours on his feet every day, 27 years old. And when he went to the ACA window to get, because they didn't have, local restaurant doesn't have healthcare, he went to go get his healthcare. He qualified for Medicaid. He's not fucking lazy. The Republicans in the House and the Senate have been going on TV and saying that we got 27-year-old men playing video games, getting free healthcare. You know, they hate America. They hate Americans. They hate the people they're supposed to represent. And I hate that. And so none of my fellow Missourians or Americans are my enemy. We just have to have a conversation. The people who are if you want to call them our opponents, they are not representing us and our problems. And they want us to fight each other so they can keep on stripping more away from us. And I think if we can do that, if we can go out there and talk to people, I don't know, we got a chance. Not to mention the fact polls show her underwater. So, because people are fed up,
It's all the Republicans have, man.
Right.
But it doesn't really fly in times of economic problems. When the pain hits, they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats. They don't want to hear that bullshit. When back when Democrats run things and things are smooth and you're not worried about, are you going to be able to get your medicine for your wife and you're going to be able to, they're susceptible to that. The bigotry in the background starts to play but when the pain hits, they don't want to hear that bullshit. And the Republicans are reeling right now. They don't understand why this isn't playing. And I want to talk about troops in the cities. Could you have imagined 10 years ago with your service, with everything that you know, with the culture that you come from, that this shit would be going on today with them deploying troops in American cities? How crazy would you have said I was if I walked up to you and said, Fred, I'm from the future, and they're going to be deploying troops into our cities, over politics?
Right. It is shocking. It is. And I tell the story often. If people watch me or read my Substack, I tell the story often of sitting in Iraq in 2003 with Dr. Muhammad, my local sheikh. And we started having bombs going off on the highway to Baghdad. Our sector straddled the highway to between Mosul and Baghdad. And we started having bombs go off. And I remember saying to Dr. Muhammad, I said, Dr. Muhammad, these are being planted in broad daylight. This is the busiest highway in Iraq. The people are seeing them doing this. Why are they not reporting it? Why are they not going to the authorities and saying, hey, there's a bomb? And he said, Major Wellman, you need to understand something. That for 35 years under Saddam, under dictatorship, you learned not to see things. And here's where the story gets relevant. The example he gave was you learned not to see when the men in the black SUVs pulled up next door and took the family away in the middle of the night. Okay? You learned not to see that. And I remember thinking to myself, thank God I don't have to worry about that in America. And now what I see men in black vans pulling up, masked men, kidnapping people off our streets without badges, without warrants, just taking them from the courthouse when they go to actually do the legal process for immigration, being seized in the courthouse as they're doing the right thing, stripped from their families. The wife, did you see the video of the wife being thrown to the ground by a tough guy ICE agent? And now they're talking about saying our sons and daughters, our National Guardsmen who volunteer to serve their communities, to when there's a flood, they relieve people. When there's a disaster, they help. When there's a war, they step up and go overseas. And instead, they're being sent to our cities to do. I mean, imagine coming from Mississippi to pick up garbage in the National Mall because Doge fired all the freaking national parks people. But what really disturbs me too, this is a little known fact right now, Paul. We have more soldiers, more citizen soldiers mobilized right now. So we have more people on employee military leave, which is when a reservist or a National Guardsman is mobilized, than since the surge in Iraq. I want you to wrap your head around that. The surge in Iraq, when we sent extra troops to Iraq, we mobilized National Guardsmen and reservists from across the country to surge into Iraq. We now, in a time of peace, have more of our National Guardsmen and reservists mobilized than since that time, for no other reason than to go to cities and get videos and pictures of them standing around doing a job that's not there. And here in Missouri, the greatest crime and the silence of my opponent, when we had the first tornado to hit the city of St. Louis, North St. Louis was devastated by a tornado. Mike Kehoe, our governor, sent our National Guard a single unit for 3 days. 3 days. No cleanup. They set up the dump sites and then left. He just announced he's mobilizing our National Guard for a full year to support ICE. I mean, what
I go back
and do it. What are we doing? What are we doing?
I go back to the campaign when we were Democrats were trying to modernize our immigration system, bring those computer systems up to date, make the system efficient and work. Right. And all we heard from the right was, well, I ain't got a problem with them illegals. I just want them to do it the right way.
Right.
Which we know is bullshit, because when they're doing it the right way, ICE is arresting them at the freaking courthouse when they're showing up for their hearings. You can't arrest them if they're not showing up.
Because the number's fake. There's not 12 million. Yeah. Okay. So they made up a fake number. Then they made up a fake allocation they have to get. So to get this fake number, they got to grab anybody. And we predicted this, Paul. You and I know we talked about this. And I did a whole show on this for my show where I talked about, I did a video and I did a Substack saying, look, this is how it's going to go. They're going to grab anybody. Low-hanging fruit is the easiest one. Hey, I got to get 10 people a day. They're showing up at the courthouse. Easy peasy, baby. I'm just going to grab them. Oh, you look Latino? I'm going to break your window because I can't. This is authoritarianism on steroids. And I do caution people, please don't attack the National Guard. Now, this is counterintuitive, but I was talking to Tammy Duckworth about this. I assure you that overwhelmingly, our sons and daughters who volunteer for the National Guard, who don't want to be away from their own kids during school time, want to be away from their good-paying civilian job, to be sloughing around DC or Portland or Chicago, guarding a building that's not under attack, or picking up effing garbage on the National Mall. They are not our enemy. They are not the Gestapo. They are not the stormtroopers of Hitler. They're our sons and daughters. The ICE guys, have at them. ICE is something's going on there. They're
I caution people.
Even there,
any violence at all plays into their hands.
Exactly. They want that bad. They want
that video, man,
so bad. They want look. I had a guy on my show a couple weeks ago who's an expert at the Chicago Center for Violence, political violence, and he's an expert in political violence. And he is desperately putting out notes saying, Bob is putting out notes saying, don't fall for it. Don't fall for it. There's a reason that these guys are walking around with cameras. They desperately want us to walk into the trap of attacking them with violence, acting out violently, so they can film it and say, look, we're at war. They're looking for a trigger. They want us to fall into the trap of violence. And that's why I always tell people, if you're going to protest, peaceful and patriotic, bring your damn flag. You know why? It's our flag. It's our flag. Peaceful and patriotic. Bring your damn flag and show them that's they're supposed to be swearing an oath to, not this guy. And I tell you, it is. So look at this stuff. I mean, this is authoritarian stuff, but it's not going to work, because you know why? In the end, our sons and daughters that serve, those generals in that room, the Pete Hegseth, who served for 35 to 40 years, this isn't what they signed up for. And so I have hope. And that's the thing I want you guys to remember. I have hope, because hope is something you build You work for it and you fight for it. And I have hope because I know my sons and daughters. My son's a veteran. My son-in-law is a National Guardsman. They are not Hitler's stormtroopers. There are sons and daughters and mothers and fathers and brothers and sisters, and they will not play this game. So when the time comes, they won't. That's why they're angry. This is why Stephen Miller is angry. Stephen Miller is angry because he can't win. He can't win. Our system will push him back. And so I was a little bit of a rant.
Well, we talk about here, Fred, the importance of the narrative. That's why it is so important that we control our protests, that we are very careful. You had people originally when the protests were starting to say, don't take your cell phones, they can track you. I'm like, oh, hell no. Do not wear masks. Take your cell phones, video everything, because the narrative is everything. And what did we find? We found little piles of bricks. They were filming little piles of bricks that were laid along where the protests were, and shit like that. It's like, we didn't put this shit out here. No, this is a setup, and we have it happening over and over again. We had right-wing agitators show up in Portland. Nick Sorter showed up there to start a fight. Did he show up in the middle of the afternoon? No, it was at night. They are trying to set up this narrative and this video footage of violence and shit happening. And that's why I say we have to control that narrative. Keep the videos coming in of peaceful, beautiful Portland. Keep the videos coming in of peaceful, beautiful DC. Folks, if you have never been to Washington, D.C., it is life-changing.
Yeah,
it is life-changing to see those things. It is. It's incredibly humbling.
I got the opportunity to go. I had meetings at the White House, and you can't walk in that building without going, wow, this is the place. I mean, one of the most humbling things ever was sitting in the First Lady's office having a meeting about veterans employee homelessness, actually, veterans homelessness. And you can't walk around that city without being humbled by what our nation's achieved and what we can achieve. And I saw in the comments, what do I do about Black Sun? It scares the death of me. It's going to take. I'm not that guy. Look at me. I'm the whitest guy. I'm English and Italian. I'm so white it hurts. But by that same token, I will do everything I can to fight for your sons and daughters. I will fight for the fastest growing population in my district is South Asian, our Indian neighbors. I will fight for them. We have a beautiful Muslim population. I will fight for them. I will fight for our transgender friends and neighbors because they just deserve to live their lives. The whole point of the way I was raised in Missouri by a Marine was just leave us alone. I got to tell you a quote. It's funny. Circling back to Missouri, people call us the show me state, and it's become a joke about how, oh, you want to show me, huh? But the history of that, actually, it's a little bit in doubt, but most people claim in 1889, a Missouri congressman named Willard Duncan Vandiver delivered a speech in Philadelphia, okay? And he famously said, I love this quote, I even wrote it down, frothy eloquence neither convinces nor satisfies me. I'm from Missouri. You've got to show me. And I tell you, that is it, right? It's like these guys are talking at us. They're telling us to be angry. They're telling us our cities are on fire, that we are unsafe with our fellow citizens. But the truth is, we see it. We here in Missouri, thank you. We here in Missouri see it. And you got to show me. And the fact is, they're showing us they don't care. They're showing us they don't want our input. They don't want us to be represented by them. And so I'm running because it's like, you know what? Am I the perfect candidate? No. If you grew a candidate in a petri dish, it would not look like me. But God damn it, if
you're exactly what we need right now, Fred. Because there's two more subjects that I really want to talk about.
Yeah, please.
One is this: you've got Trump. That's just his brain is addled. He is really not all there. He is doddering. He is, and you've got people around him that are running our government. We have no. You understand how leadership works. Yeah. You are the magnet in the center of the pool. You are the one that keeps the armada going in the exact same direction. We have none of that. We have people running their own agendas all over the place. And then you have a quote president that says things like this that has no clue what he's talking about.
Right.
To ICE, Border Patrol, law enforcement, and all U.S. military, as per my August 25th, 2025 executive order, please be advised from this point forward, anybody burning an American flag will be subject to 1 year in prison. You will be immediately arrested. Thank you for your attention to this matter. The president of the United States is not a king. He does not pass legislation. I think flag burning is the stupidest damn thing you can do because I'm a patriotic American. But you know what? Freedom of speech means you doing something that makes my blood boil.
Yeah.
And you're allowed to say it and do it.
Exactly. And that's the whole point, that very First Amendment, right?
And this guy thinks he can just pass an executive order and there's a law. We have no kings in this country. None whatsoever.
But can I turn it around too to what let me turn around the office I'm running for. I'm running for Congress. And Congress is Article 1 of the Constitution, right, Paul? Article 1 of the Constitution. They're first. They are a co-equal branch of government. They don't work for the president. Okay. They don't work for the executive branch. It's a separate branch of the government. And so what makes me angry, look, Trump is Trump. He's nuts. He's allowed Project 2025. He's allowed Stephen Miller. He's allowed Bessent and the rich guys he's allowed Elon Musk to run much. But in the end, who's supposed to fix this? It's the leadership of the House and the Senate. It's the Republicans in the Senate. And they've turned themselves into a doormat at Trump Inc. And I as much as, look, again, it's the devil I know is Donald Trump. I've known him I went to West Point in New York, for God's sake. I married a New York girl. I've been watching Donald Trump since the 80s. This is Donald Trump. He's marketed one thing his whole life, Donald Trump. But what makes me angry is people like my rep, Ann Wagner, who silently and complicitly comply and refuse to do the oversight. These are laws. He's breaking. That's not a law. He can't just say, I've made a law. You're going to be arrested and thrown in jail. That's not a thing the president can do. There is no national emergency that lets him arrest people for burning the flag. There's no law that says he's allowed to rescission money. That's against the Constitution. We don't have line item veto in America. The president can just
and Republicans are doing nothing.
Renaming the bases was against the law. That was enshrined in the Defense Act years ago. So when he just renamed the bases, that broke the law. And the silence and the complicitness and the going along with it with the Republican House and Mike Johnson and my rep, Ann Wagner, is why we are where we are. They are failing to do their duty. They've shirked their duty to the Constitution. And that's why I'm running for Congress, because you know what? God damn it. Do your job, because we're paying you $170,000 a year to do it. And the symbolic, oh, I'm not going to take my pay during the shutdown. We're shut down because you won't do your damn job. And so I am running for Congress for that reason. We have a job. They have a job to oversee the executive branch. They have a job to work with the courts. They have a job to represent the average American people. And none of them are doing it. They're much more interested in making sure that Donald Trump invites them to the Rose Garden Club. My God, these people are demented at this point. It's demented what we're seeing. So, people say, why are you running for Congress? I'm running for Congress because, God damn it, do your job. Do your job.
And I want to expand on this, Fred. I do. I said there were two things, but I lied. There's three things, and you got to hang out with me, bud. You got to hang in there with me.
I ran out of coffee.
There are.
Look, man,
this is really just
my staff's not here. We are completely. They're never going to let me do this again.
I did not know the number of people in our country that don't understand basic civics. They don't understand how things work. So one of the main comments I get, I talk to 10, 15 million people a week easily on all my social media platforms. And one of the major things I hear is why, to expand on what we're talking about, why isn't Congress doing something about this? And they just don't understand, when we took power from the Democrats, the Republicans are the people that have to do something about this.
Right.
I mean, Democrats can't even call committee hearings right now. They don't understand. There's that, and then there are the folks that they're not going to let us vote. They're not going to let it. Oh, bullshit. I'm voting. I'm voting. I ain't asking. I'm voting. You know what I mean? So how do you address those two issues, if you don't mind me throwing that at you unprompted?
Are we going to vote? We're going to vote. The fact is, first of all, yeah, you're right. The idea that to blame the Democrats for the government shutdown is ludicrous. And by the way, it's failing in the polls, because last time I checked, the House is controlled by Republicans, the Senate is controlled by Republicans, the White House is controlled by Republicans. All they have to do is do the damn job, negotiate with the people you need to vote with you. And they refuse to do that. They refuse to negotiate for the people to get the job done. So let's just put that aside. This is the Republican shutdown. This is Donald Trump's second shutdown. It's going to hurt a lot of people, to include my own daughter, who has a small business outside Washington, D.C., because most of her people are government employees or military people. So she's going to lose money. She did last time. But you know what? We only have so many tools in the toolbox. And one of those is digging our heels in and saying, work with us. And unfortunately, we have to do that. And so I think the Democrats, as hard as it is to say, I think they're doing the right thing by saying, look, enough is enough. You have to stand up to bullies, because the one thing we've learned is Donald Trump, when you surrender to him, he just wants more surrender. It's never good enough. The second part of that is the idea that we won't have, look, I don't know what's going to happen in a year and a half. Okay. We're 13 months out right now from the election. All I know is I'm going to run. I'm going to fight. I'm going to raise the money. And by the way, if folks can donate, that makes my life a lot easier, because I can actually hire the good people we need to canvass this district. But we're going to fight till the bitter end. If we have to hire lawyers, we'll hire lawyers to fight that too. But the fact is, we still have the right to vote. And as much as Donald Trump wants to steal that from us, do not surrender in advance. Because when you say, what's the point? Why should I give to a candidate? Why should I volunteer for a campaign? Why should I try? Because that's what they want. They want you to surrender. You know, I also get the other thing I get a lot too, Paul, is are you nervous? Are you scared? I mean, we just had that wonderful
well, hell yeah,
murder. Yeah, we had wonderful people murdered up in Minnesota. Charlie Kirk was just murdered. People are getting killed. You know, I've seen. I know where political violence goes. I know how this ends. I lived in Baghdad for 2 years. Okay, I know where this ends. And it ends with everybody getting bloody. And so I condemn political violence in every way. Am I afraid? Is my family afraid for me? Yes. I will not. Look, I got sued by Mike Flynn for $150 million over 3 tweets. And his goal was not to get $150 million from me. His goal was for me to shut the hell up. And I suck at shutting up. And I didn't. And from day one, I said, bro, you're not getting a dime. We're going to subpoena you. We are going to depose you. I'm going to find out how I cost you $150 million. And guess what? After a year and a half of trying to take my money, he dropped the case and we won, because they wanted me to shut up and they want us scared. And I think exactly what you said about, oh, there's not going to be an election. That's exactly the words that when you say, what's the point? We're not going to get to vote anyway. That is music to Stephen Miller's fascist ears. To the fact that they are succeeding every time we give them that. And I refuse to give, Pee Wee Gables that fucking win. I really do. Yeah. So
Pee Wee German is these people are so. I'm watching Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth does not have a great resume. All joking aside, this man is. I wouldn't hire him to manage a Kmart. He doesn't have a great resume. Pee Wee German is nobody. Yeah, I mean, he's just nobody. This entire government. This is what I keep reassuring people with. Yes, they're awful, but they're also awful at what they do. So we are going to win this. We are going to win this.
Yes.
It's going to be ugly. It's going to be a problem. There's going to be shit we have to fix. It's all going to be, but we are going to win this in the end. And you look at every court case, you look at all that other stuff. But there's one last thing I want to show you. I know you're short on time, Fred, but this is right up at your wheelhouse, man. New West Bill, thank you for the support, brother.
Wow.
This is something that's just
great. You got great fans. Can I say how good your fans are? How good your readers, your viewers are? I mean, anyway, go ahead. God damn.
Talk about being undeserving.
Wow.
You talk about being undeserving. These people are incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible. They're from, it's global, dude. They're from Australia. They're from Denmark. They're from Norway. It's amazing, man. They'll chime in here in a minute. They're very proud. Canada, huge support for Canada. Elbows up, my friends. But
saying, I apologize.
Snowy Mountain, great question. I've got his Act Blue in the description. I've also linked it in the chat. But if you go to the YouTube description, there is a direct link right there. Fred, you want to tell them the website?
Wellman4mo.com. Wellman, F-O-R-M-O.com. Wellman4mo.com. Sorry, you were going to ask.
We normally do that at the end, but we're not at the end, Fred. I really want to talk about this.
All right, go. Let's do it.
I really want to talk about this. This is a Bullion M Corvette. It is a Russian missile corvette. It is the latest of the late of their their naval technology. And this thing was just completely disabled. It didn't sink, but it was completely disabled by a quadcopter drone.
Yep.
And I'm not even talking about like the expensive drones we buy. You know what I mean? Because our defense industry, this is where I'm going. Ukraine has changed. It happens in every major conflict. War changes. World War I, it was throwing, to quote Zukov, don't laugh at me, this is his words, not mine, throwing man meat at each other. It was literally just running into, I mean, and then we go to World War II, and then you're talking about the armored and air war.
Yep. War
changed drastically. The Germans got to jump on us with that, with Blitzkrieg, but hey, we got back into it in the end. War changed there. Vietnam, all of a sudden, armored and air power, that turned into the helicopter war. That turned into, we learn and change. Ukraine has changed war drastically.
Yeah.
Drastically. You're talking about a drone that costs less than $10,000, and they disabled a $600 million missile frigate?
Yep.
Not frigate, but a missile corvette.
Yeah.
And Russia loves the Buyan M class. So here's the thing, Fred, and I want to tie this to you running for Congress. Republicans, I have not met Republicans in Congress. The veterans that they elect, these are Pete Hegseth people. These are not big picture people. These are not, oh, hey, I've got a job to do people. You're going to win, dude. I believe you're going to win. The wind is at your back. You're going to be in DC, and you're going to have to look at our military budget, and you're going to have to look at the Abrams X and the F-35 and our new aircraft carriers that are coming down the pike, and you're going to have to deal with the situation that is
battleships.
World War II, the battleship disappeared for good.
You can't make this shit up.
What was it? The Yamato and the Tirpitz and the Bismarck. The battleship went away. And we're seeing it again, I believe. If I may be wrong, this is your wheelhouse, not mine. I'm a civilian.
Yeah.
But it looks like we are seeing war change from those big, expensive weapon systems to, for what you paid for one plane, I can fund our entire drone program for the entirety of the war.
Right. War has dramatically changed. The digital age of warfare, we are playing catch up. The United States is playing catch up. And our friends in Ukraine, I'm so proud to support them. I've always been support Ukraine. I'm not going to waver from that. I think they're fighting for their existential existence. I am very proud to call friends of mine in Ukraine. I have reporter friends that are there, but the fact is because of the fact that they are fighting for their existential existence as a nation, they have come up with remarkable ways to fight this war. And of course, drones has been the key to all of that. You can make them inexpensive. You can flood the zone with them. Now, I mean, we haven't got to the point where we're using AI. I mean, look, think if you had armed drones along the lines of when you see these drone shows where there's 1,000 of them in the air with lights and stuff. I mean, we are coming to a place that is unimaginable as far as what warfare looks like. And it's changing my world. These old helicopters I used to fly in many ways are almost completely useless in a lot of ways. And that makes me sad because that's going through a change right now. But we do have to play catch up as a nation to that. And it makes me, it frustrates me to know when you see people like Pete Hegseth all but smearing the intelligent people. Look, the fact is we need very smart people to be in the armed services. We need average Americans in the armed services. And one of the things that makes me the craziest I'm hearing right now, what the most disgusting thing I've ever heard come from the mouth of the Secretary of Defense of the United States of America is that diversity is not our strength. And that people that say diversity is our strength are wrong. Look, man, I joined the Army in 1983, not exactly the most woke time on earth, okay? And you know what? The first thing I was taught was diversity is our strength. That's not a DEI thing. It's not a new thing. I came from Kirkwood, Missouri. By the way, Kirkwood, Missouri was under a desegregation order after Brown v. Board of Education. My elementary school was closed because it was so white. We had one black student in my entire time. I got bused to another school that was more racially segregated. I know where I grew up, in a very white place. And my first roommate was a black kid from Detroit. And you know what? He busted my chops mercilessly. and I learned to lead soldiers of color. I learned to lead soldiers who were immigrants. One of my young soldiers was a Mexican immigrant during Desert Shield, Desert Storm. He was one of my crew chiefs, and he was one of my best crew chiefs. I probably weighed 50 pounds soaking wet. And Alvarado, after the war, he asked me if I'd help him get his citizenship. We got him his citizenship. This young man stayed in the Army, got his citizenship, went to warrant officer school, then transitioned into aviation, then flew Army jets. This young man, who was an immigrant from Mexico, who barely spoke English when I met him in 1990, ended up being the guy flying the Gulfstream jets for the generals. And right now, folks, when you get on a Southwest Airlines flight, you're flying with one of my old soldiers. That Mexican accent, he's a fucking immigrant who joined the United States Army. And that's the story of our country.
Amen, brother.
I get so angry when these guys say diversity is our strength.
And we're so
I got one dude,
for it.
We're better for it. And my God, I learned so much about my country the day I joined the Army. And I met people who weren't from my town. And the day I had to sleep next to a guy who didn't look at all like me and barely spoke the same English that I did. And God damn it, that's what we need. Because you know what? There's not enough Americans to join the Army. Only 1/3 of Americans are even physically capable of joining the United States military.
We're an aging nation, Fred.
We can't afford to get rid of it. We need women soldiers. And you know what? I've had women soldiers absolutely kick my ass, and it's okay.
When I was listening to those comments from Pete Hegseth, Fred, I love history, dude. I do. I love history. And one of the things that are really cool, like I like to read about Simo Häyhä, the famed Finnish sniper, and you hear about these guys that, well, I shot the longest shot, and this, that, and the other. This, that, and the other. Do you know what the most successful sniper program in history has been? In history. And I'm not talking about, this person got the longest shot and this one person racked up the most kills. No, I'm talking about a program that makes a difference on the fucking battlefield, dude. It was Russian women snipers in World War II.
Yep.
Were just destroying the Germans, man. And I've got Pete Hegseth talking misogynist bullshit, and he isn't qualified to carry these women's freaking to dig their latrines, man.
And he has Ranger tab. He's not a Ranger. He was an infantry lieutenant and never got his Ranger tab. This fucker didn't even go to Ranger school. He talks all tough and didn't go to the most basic tough guy school of the Army, the Ranger school. I'm a freaking pilot, for God's sake, and I went to Ranger school. It's just like the guy. It's just the weakest.
Fred, I remember watching one of these women, and I wish I could remember her name off the top of my head because it's on YouTube. I remember watching one of these women, and I was thinking about that. I immediately thought about this when I watched Pete Hegseth talk. And, he's running his mouth about women and how we have to return to a warrior ethos. And I remember watching this woman do an interview afterwards, and she was talking about, I asked her, do you remember your first kill? And this woman, with zero emotion, negative emotion at all. In fact, she lit up and smiled because she's telling the story. Oh, I remember it was a young German officer. He was very handsome. Very handsome. He came walking down by a river, and she said where it was at. He came walking down the river, and he was walking so proudly, this, that, and the other. And I remember that, and they're like, that was your first kill? And she said, oh, yeah, I shot him. No emotion whatsoever, man. Went from, ooh, this guy was hot to pop. You know what I mean? Women are fucking badass, dude. And to hear this idiot, this failed major that didn't amount to shit in the Army. Yeah. One, disrespecting our military leaders. Oh, I was sitting there watching Eric Smith. That's what I was watching. I was watching for Eric Smith, who's like 2 rows in or 3 rows in. And he was my pick for vice president. He was. When they were searching for vice president, I did a whole segment on the show about, I want Eric Smith. You know what I mean? This guy, I'm looking at his fruit salad. This dude is a in the field combat veteran.
Right.
He knows what it's like to, that if you're not shooting, you're communicating. If you're not, you know what I mean? This is the real freaking deal. And I'm watching him turn 6 different colors listening to Pete Hegseth talk. And then he starts talking about women. And I'm thinking about, you have no fucking clue, dude.
No.
None.
And that's it. And I was proud of the generals for sitting there stoically and taking these little shots. But what kind of a week? Look, if you're in the military, this is not a conversation with Jason Crow, by the way, on my show Friday nights at 7 on the Midas Touch Network on Democracy. I was talking to Jason Crow about this, and we were both laughing because both of us knew, if you've ever, so how many people watched Band of Brothers? Okay, which is an incredible show. If you haven't watched Band of Brothers, you have to watch it right now. And it talks about the Easy Company of the 101st Airborne Division, and their first commander was a guy named Sobel. It's poor Ross from Friends played Sobel, but Sobel was such a weak leader for them, and he was constantly screaming and constantly blaming everybody else for the problem. And Hegseth is Sobel. So Hegseth is Captain Sobel. The idea that the Secretary of Defense felt that he had to call all the commanding generals and their senior enlisted advisors from around the world to lecture them like children because they're not disciplined and warrior enough. These are men and women who served for 35 to 40 years of their lives, to include the longest war in American history. And this guy is prowling around the stage, peacocking about how they need to be more warrior. Screw you, dude. Those people, it's not about the medals. It's not about the ribbons. It's every single person in that room, almost without a single one, knows someone who died in combat, lost a soldier, lost a sailor, lost them in peacetime training. I lost as many service member friends in peacetime training and in helicopter crash. Every unit I served in had at least one aircraft go down at some point. We had an aircraft crash in the Lamb Lakes, and it came out of the clouds upside down, for God's sake. I mean, this is a dangerous goddamn business. And those men and women have sat there and listened to this jackass prowl around the parade, prowl around the stage. And again, where's the Republicans in Congress? Where's the people who should be overseeing him? Just sitting on their hands as he breaks the law. It is a disgusting time. It is infuriating, and I can't. Sometimes I just want to scream. I swear to God, I really do.
You know, what another thing that really struck me is I have had some great mentors in my life, and I will tell you, people that are legitimately badass, are the nicest people you would ever want to meet. They're not full of bravado. Whenever you see a Pete Hegseth, you're talking to somebody 100%. That is just 100%. Weak and useless, and that is there. Somebody that is really legit. It reminds me of that story. You know who Christopher Lee is, the actor Christopher Lee. When he did the first Bond film he did, the director walks up to him and says, "Okay, you're going to kill this guy. You're going to walk up behind him and you're going to stick a dagger in him. I'm going to need you to try to imagine what it would sound like and react to the noise that you would think you'd hear." And Christopher Lee just looked at him and said, "Well, some of us don't have to imagine." Because he was a fucking spy that legitimately, you know what I mean? He really knew what it was all about, but he was the most humble, nicest guy. You listen to him speak and it comes out. You can tell when somebody's like an asshole and just pretending to be nice for a camera, and somebody that's really legitimately not, like you, Fred. You can tell. You light up, you're happy. You know what I mean? We've gone way long and you're just like fucking cool with it. You know what I mean? You can tell when people are good, decent people, and that was the kind of thoughts I was having watching that situation. Unfold. I gotta tell you, my favorite war story. I gotta tell you this war story. I got everybody loves a good war story. So I get to Iraq, my second tour. I'm the spokesman and I had many jobs. So we were the MNSTICI, Multinational Security Transition Command Iraq. So I was with General Petraeus. We were training the Iraqi security forces. So I had a dual hat. I was the spokesman for that mission, but I was also the trainer for our Iraqi security force partners. So in addition to just doing my day job as being the spokesman for a 3-star command, I also would have to go to the Ministry of Defense. I would train them how to do that, how to tell their story, how to work with the media. So it was kind of a neat job. It was a multi-hat job. So there's this guy, one of the units we had within our command was a organization, and their job was to equip the Iraqi security forces. And this guy in charge was like, he looked like Elmer Fudd. I'm not shitting you. Short guy, big bushy mustache. He was an Army colonel, had no hair. He would turn pink like us. Just Elmer fucking Fudd. About a month into it, I find out that he's been put in for the Medal of Honor. Okay, I'm not making this up. Because he was with an Iraqi security unit, an Iraqi army unit in Mosul in September 2004. If you guys may have forgotten the history, but Mosul fell
the first time in September 2004 when Al-Qaeda launched a major offensive and overwhelmed Mosul. He was in there with a platoon of Iraqi troops who got ambushed in the street. They fought a 3.5-hour running gun battle in the streets of Mosul where all of the different Iraqi soldiers were injured or shot. The colonel, Kaufman is his name, Colonel Kaufman, you can look it up. Colonel Kaufman, he was left-handed. Colonel Kaufman's left hand got shot, so he couldn't shoot, so he had to shoot with his right hand. He was crawling from man to man and taking their ammo and putting in his gun and shooting with his right hand for 3.5 hours. So they were relieved by a convoy. Think about it's a lot like Black Hawk Down. And then they got out. They went back to their base, and that unit, every single one that was injured some way, they went back to battle the next day. And for that, he was actually put in for the Medal of Honor. He ended up getting the second highest medal for it, which we had a huge ceremony for, which is a story. But look, Paul, you're not kidding. I mean, if you met this guy in the street, he's squatty body like me, bald, big bushy mustache, quick with a smile, fast to joke, cowboy like crazy. I remember we went on a convoy to an Iraqi training event. We walk into his office because he's like, "What gun do you want?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" They had every gun imaginable, from MP5s to AKs to machine guns. I'm like, I don't know. I'm feeling MP5. It was great. MP5 it is, and we drive in these damn unmarked SUVs across Baghdad. But he was the baddest ass you'd ever meet in your life. And if you met him in the street, you think he's a greeter at fucking Walmart. And he is 3,000 times the man that Pete Hegseth and his clownish fucking suits that are too small and his tough guy bullshit and his outrageous tattoos will ever be. And the fact that we sit back and allow people like that to be in charge, to call it the Department
Congress
of War, it's just exactly. And that goes back to why when I came on your show today, especially as I'm running for Congress, because God damn it, do your job. Do your job. Where's my member of Congress? And the thing about Ann Wagner that sets me off on this one is she is constantly talking about her son who served, I believe, in the Army. I should probably look that up. Oh, I actually went and met her when I was working on getting IVF for veterans through the VA. Believe it or not, we could not get in vitro fertilization or support for wounded veterans through the VA because it was illegal. And she kept talking, always talks about her son. Oh, I'm a big support of the military because my son's like, ma'am, if you support the military, why are you being silent? Why a drunken DEI hire is the Secretary of Defense breaking the law, changing the name, millions of dollars to change the name, pissing our money away, flying on the world, doing fucking push-ups, and not doing his damn job. It's such a shirking your duty. And look, it's a thing, right? In the UCMJ, walking away from your job is a punishable offense. And I think this Congress has walked away from their job. They've quietly quit. And anyway, I've gone long.
No, you're fine. Sorry, you're fine. Because this is it. I promise. Last thing we're going to talk about, brother. I want to get your take on this.
Go ahead.
They have tapped a guy by the name of Anthony Tata, Undersecretary of Defense. Mm-hmm. They are saying out loud that we are going to restructure our military leadership. They're going to provide bonuses that they're going to pay out to MAGA. If you toe the line and you're going to get bonuses. If you are, and people have really got, I had a lot of people come in like, well, the president can't fire generals. The fuck he can't. You're relieved of command. Okay.
Yeah,
you can do that. Well, you're essentially fired because the next thing the Army's going to do is say, we can't pay a 4-star general to sit and twiddle his willy. You're retiring now.
Yeah, well,
that's the next thing that happens.
General officers do serve at it's a presidential appointment for that level of job. So it is what it is at that level.
So we've got Tata coming in. This guy is he pushed conspiracy theories about Barack Obama. He's a nutter, man. He's like Jerome Corsi. He is just a nutter. He is crazy. Yeah. The shit that has come out of his mouth. And he was brigadier general. So there are veins in our military leadership of people like Anthony Tata. Mike Flynn.
Yeah.
Had a hell of a freaking job in the Army.
Board of Visitors at West Point now. Mike Flynn is on the Board of Visitors of my alma mater, the United States Military Academy. A guy who was brought up on federal charges for lying to the FBI, a guy who conspired with other people, was a foreign agent for Turkey, is now on the board of visitors of the United States Military Academy. It is a sickness. It scares me. And here's the thing that bothers me about things like Tata and Hegseth. Folks have to understand, we will see, this isn't just for the people. This is the hopeless part. I'm sorry, is every single soldier, every single service member starts off as a private or a lieutenant, period. Maybe a specialist or whatever the rank is. Okay. You start off as an 18-year-old or a 21-year-old, and that's it. You don't start as a general. You don't start as a colonel. You start as a lieutenant, as an officer. And so the changes they're making.
Unless you're a tech bro, then you start out as a lieutenant colonel.
Don't get me started on that one. Fuck me. What are you doing to me? Sorry. What are you doing to me, man? No, I'm going to start drinking and watching football after this. No, it is. And so the long-term damage is here. Look, I don't know if you remember, we had some struggles in the middle of the global war on terror in the 2010s or so. We had some generals getting a lot of trouble. We had generals getting fired for having affairs with their assistants. We had generals getting fired for corruption. We had the whole scandal with the Navy, with the guy Petraeus. Who was, you're right, the Petraeus scandal, my old boss, all of those scandals. And I people get mad and I say, well, you know why? The drawdown in 1994. And they look at me, I'm crazy. Like, no, think about it. Well, I was there after the Cold War, after Desert Storm, even before Desert Storm. They said, look, get out now. We'll give you $10,000 and get out now. Now, look, who stays and who goes? I stayed because I really loved flying. I loved the job. I did. So I stayed in. But my best friends, the really good guys who knew they were going to make it in the outside and do just fine, those fuckers are bankers now. Those guys work for big KKR firms. They work for big investment firms. They work for major corporations. So what happened was we drew down, and a lot of the really good dudes who should have been generals in 20 years got out. And so we ended up with a bunch of clowns like General Sinclair, who was sleeping with his aide, all but raping her, and got away with it. Okay. And so this is a long tail of the damage. So the lieutenants they're bringing in now are going to be the generals in 20 to 40 years. That's some scary shit, which is why the Congress has to do their job now. We have to we have to flip the House. We have to flip the Senate. We have to take back. We have to stop this attack on our national security now, because we're not going to just pay a price for it today. We're going to pay a price for it 20, 30, 40 years from now, of the clowns and weirdos they bring in the military if we don't get rid of them. So I am very passionate about this because my own son is a veteran, and I know exactly what we're going to pay a price. So yeah, that is very, very dangerous. Tata is a monster. I promise that if I get myself to Capitol Hill, we are going to do some investigating, brother.
And this is where I tell everybody, don't panic.
Yep.
There is a mechanism to fight this. It's called Congress.
Yep.
You show up, you elect Democrats. We can put a stop to this. You got Ronnie Jackson, who's a rear admiral again.
Oh,
they gave him his fucking rank back, dude.
Yeah.
He got busted down to captain for being a drunk on duty, showing up at a subordinate's hotel room, trying to, hey, you want to come to my room and get it on? Just sick freaking behavior. Yep. Talk about unbecoming an officer.
Yep.
They busted him down to captain. Trump and Hegseth gave him his fucking rank back.
Yep.
This is the kind of shit that we must have an active working segment of our government to have a check on this. We need somebody when someone gets brought up for a promotion or brought up to take a job. That's why they made those tech bros lieutenant colonels. No confirmation unless it's a bird or higher. You know what I mean? We need Congress to step in. That's why, brother, I'm pulling for you. I'm working for you. We're going to get you freaking elected. We're going to do it. The wind is at your back. We're going to make it happen, brother.
We do.
Anything.
And I do want to tie that up because I saw some of the folks in the comments say, hey, do you even have a chance? We do, actually. This district is the 13th most on the rank of districts that are shifting from red to blue. Missouri 2 is 13th on that list. Even with the district, this redistrict they're trying to save her, it's not going to go through. The thing that the Washington Republicans didn't remember, they don't know about Missouri, is we have a wonderful petition initiative process. We can actually veto laws that our legislature passes. All we have to do is gather 107,000 signatures in 6 out of 8 congressional districts. We put it on the ballot. And I tell you, 27 times in Missouri history, we've done that. And 25 times the people have won. So this map, We're going to stop it. We got good people. I was out there with him yesterday signing petitions at Wildwood Farmer Market. So this map's, they're not going to save her this time. So she is underwater. We have polling showing she's underwater, and people are angry. And look, the cold, hard reality is settling in. When they open the ACA window in Missouri in about a month, the rates are going to go from 14 to 40% higher. 14 to 40% higher in 1 month. Okay. They allowed our electric company to raise our electric rates 12% in the middle of the summer in anticipation of someday building a new plant. This is what's going on. This is what average Americans are facing. Electric bills are skyrocketing. Houses are going to skyrocket. We had the largest gap between the median price of a home and the median income of Americans right now in the history of recording. Okay. So think about that. We have a moment where our country, the reality is the lived lives of average working Americans is coming home to roost. And I tell you, we just need someone who, that's why it's funny. They attack me for my bankers. Oh, you've been bankrupt. Yes. You know why? Because I built a business and during a pandemic it failed. You know why? Because I volunteered to serve the Army. And you know what? Look in your neighborhood. Look in that nice neighborhood you might live in. And when there's a cancer diagnosis or there's a child who gets in trouble or a divorce, their house goes into foreclosure, they end up bankrupt because that is America. My life, you can try to hang it around me like an anchor, but God damn it, I earned every fucking scar I've got. So anyway,
I hear you, brother.
We can win. We can win. And we just got to believe we can win. Well,
I know we can, brother. I know we can. Before you go, I want to play your ad.
Oh, you found it. I love my ad.
Yeah. I just want to make sure I've got the right one. Are we talking about the
We're not done yet.
We're not done yet. Oh, there we go.
I think I might be. Yeah, we're not done. It's on my Wellman for MO YouTube. If you want to look there,
this is Fred Wellman's. It's a great ad, by the way. It is. It's a great ad. Let's do this. Hold on.
Oh yeah. There you go. You got it. You use YouTube too. I should have tipped you off. Should have downloaded it earlier. I didn't.
My grandfather.
All right, let's do this. You ready?
Oh yeah, hit it. Let's go big.
Wellman's running the sound of the gun for this country, even before it was a country. First in the French and Indian War, then my grandfather, an Army Air Corpsman in World War I. My dad, a World War II Marine who moved to St. Louis with my mom to pursue their American dream. And then me, a kid from Kirkwood who grew up watching fighters fly in and out of Lambert Field, dreaming of becoming a military pilot. And I did. I graduated West Point, became an Army aviator just in time for Desert Storm. And I saw the damage of war way too close. When my wife, 7 months pregnant, died in a car crash, I thought my life's over, even before it's begun. But I wasn't done yet. I did 3 tours in Iraq, came home, started over, fighting for veterans benefits, heading up a COVID field hospital, organizing volunteers and donations for refugees. I lost everything again during the pandemic, but I never stopped giving back to the place that raised me and the people who feel forgotten by our government and absolutely disrespected by our Congress member. Ann Wagner doesn't even try. 13 years in Washington, she's not come back to do one town hall, too busy hitting refresh in her stock portfolio. Wagner clipped $3 million in 1 month, profiting off the same companies she's supposed to be overseeing in Congress. At the same time, she voted to cut our health care, hike our insurance premiums, and gut medical research that supports a heck of a lot of jobs around here. And the only thing she's done on prices is drive them up higher. See, insiders like Ann Wagner, they think we're suckers. They bail out the billionaires and they screw over the rest of us. I'm Fred Wellman, and I'm running for Congress because we deserve a fighter for regular people who work their butts off to put food on the table and gas in the tank. Someone who gets the challenges you face every single day, because hell, I face them too. I've lost everything in my life twice, and our communities have lost too. But you don't give up. We just fight harder. I'm asking you to join me because I'm not done yet. You're not done yet. And Missouri is not done yet. Let's get to work.
That, my friend, is a great freaking ad. That is out of the park, my brother. I'm telling you, you killed it, man. That is a great freaking ad. It really is, man. It leaves you, when you're done, leaves you feeling fired up, encouraged. It's a good ad, my friend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's very kind.
I appreciate you being so generous with your time, and I've loved our conversation again.
Likewise.
It's always great to talk to you, my friend. It really is. Anything you ever need, you got my number. Call me. I'm always here to help. You've always got a standing invitation here. Anything you need to roll out or talk about, glad to have you here, my friend.
I'm honored. I'm humbled. I appreciate it. Thanks. I will say, we have a primary here. So obviously the DCCC, which is the Democratic campaign for they have
February, right?
They've been very generous. Yeah. Actually, we're late. We're August. So we're hoping that we don't really have too many opponents. I don't think, we may not have a primary. we will register for the primary in March, and we'll see who actually makes the ballot. But so far they've been very generous as far as their advice and their support. I've had generous support from a lot of great members of Congress or friends of mine. I actually served in combat with Seth Moulton. Seth's been a great mentor of mine as well. I'm really blessed. Greg Landsman has been just a wonderful man, mentoring me and giving me advice. Andy Kim's been very generous. So I've been very supportive of the Missouri Democratic Party since I've been here, and they've been very generous. So, we're going to do our best. We're going to bring it care. In the end, it's up to me to build a campaign that's professional, that is a national level campaign that can take on a very dug in opponent with $3.7 million in the bank last reporting period, which is a lot of money. So we do unfortunately have to raise a lot of money. So if you can chip in $5, great, man. That gives me a chance to take her on. And if you want to learn more about me and our campaigns, we build it out. Website's still being built. It's wellman4mo.com. But man, Paul, I had a blast.
That's in our description, folks. It's in our description down. If you're watching on Stitch or one of the or Facebook or one of the other platforms, you want to know how to get, set up that recurring donation, go to the description on our YouTube page. You've got a link right there. It'll take you right to his act blue. Fred, I appreciate you being here, brother.
Oh man,
we'll wrap this up. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for letting me talk so long. It was great. See you soon. Bye now.
Folks, love spending time with Fred. I really do. He's a really great guy. You can tell just from listening to him. He's a genuinely good guy. He's the kind of person that we need in Congress. He really is. He's the kind of person that we need in Congress. Speaking of Congress, I need you to come back on Wednesday. We've got Congresswoman Julie Johnson's going to join us again to talk about the shutdown. That should be a really great show. I do apologize that I wasn't able to read your comments. I'm truly grateful for you supporting the show anyway, even though I wasn't able to read your comments, and some of them did slip by me. But I'm truly grateful for all your support. I can't do this without you. Thank you again. And on that, enjoy some Texas cities at night.